Persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, Senators. Good morning. Good morning, guests. The Senators and those in attendance, if you are able, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Harry Bowman, retired Baptist minister of Sandston. Following the prayer, if everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Laura Trumbo, Assistant Director of the Senate Page Leadership Program, Senate Clerk's Office.
Would you pray with me, please? God, I come to you with an urgent request. And you know that as I entered this room this morning, there were folks around desks and all seemed to be eating hamburgers, hot dogs, salads, various kinds of foods. Oh boy, I thought, because I was hungry. And you know, Lord, I love a good cheeseburger. And I sat down, what I was hoping was like in the middle, and maybe both sides would offer me something to eat. But not a crumb. Not a crumb. So that's an urgent request, Father, that you help these folks with their generosity toward one another. And now we thank you, Father. We thank you for this historic time and this building and this place and these people. We want to thank you and praise you. Thank you for loving us and listening to us when we talk to you. I intercede on behalf of the Virginia State Senate that they may be blessed with godly wisdom, with a sweet spirit, with unity of heart and mind, that they may be good stewards for the state of Virginia, that they may respect diversity but not compromise truth, that they may recognize that in the tough times you are the way maker, that they will work feverishly to bring Virginians a quiet and tranquil life. Please bless them and their families with good health and happiness, that you will guide them on every vote, every conflict, every debate to do right. To do right when the media is not listening or watching. To do right because you love Virginia and its people. To do right because you love God. And again, I beseech you, God, to bless this body of legislators with godly wisdom and a sweet spirit. Thank you again for loving us. Thank you for listening when we talk to you. And we thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
The clerk will report a certain communication on the desk.
Commonwealth of Virginia Executive Department Proclamation. In accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 6, and Article 5, Section 5 of the Constitution of Virginia, and the powers thereby vested in the governor to call a special session of the General Assembly upon application of 2/3 of the members elected to each house, or when the interest of the Commonwealth may so require, I, Glenn Youngkin, Governor of Virginia, do hereby summon the members of the Senate and the House of Delegates constituting the General Assembly of Virginia to meet in special session commencing the 13th day of May, 2024, for the purpose of completion of the 2024-2026 biennial budget and amendments to the 2022-2024 biennial budget. Given under my hand and under the lesser seal of the Commonwealth at Richmond this 17th day of April in the year 2024, in the 248th year of the Commonwealth. Glenn Youngkin, Governor of Virginia. Kelly G., Secretary of the Commonwealth.
The chair thanks the clerk. It is noted that the Senate is operating under the rules of the Senate, which were adopted at the commencement of the 2024 session. Chair now recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke, for the purpose of taking up a resolution.
Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title and engrossment be waived, and Senate Resolution 601 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title and engrossment be waived, and Senate Resolution 601 be taken up for immediate consideration? As many as are in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The resolution is agreed to. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The clerk will report the resolution.
Senate Resolution Number 601, 2024 Special Session 1, Operating Resolution.
Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Madam President, I move that the resolution be agreed to, and speaking to the resolution.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, Senate Resolution 601 is the operating resolution that speaks to our per diem and contingent and incidental expenses. Again, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The resolution is agreed to. Senator Saravel is ordered to inform the House of Delegates that the Senate is duly organized and ready to proceed to business. At this time, the chair recognizes Senator Carol Foy, the senator from Eastern Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Today I rise to welcome Mr. Sadiq Sheikh to the Senate, who has used his success in business to empower and uplift his fellow members of the Pakistani American community while enhancing the quality of life for all residents of Northern Virginia. A man of many accomplishments, Sadiq Sheikh began his life in Pakistan and immigrated to the United States in 1969. He has since become an engaged member of the Northern Virginia community, a champion for business in the region, and a staunch advocate for Pakistani Americans. Mr. Sheikh is the founder of what is now the United States-Pakistan International Chamber of Commerce. As chair, president, and executive director of the organization, he has represented Pakistani American entrepreneurs and promoted business cooperation between the United States and Pakistan. Mr. Sheikh has served on both the Northern Virginia Community College and George Mason University Board of Visitors, through which he promotes ties with higher education institutions in Pakistan, including the National University of Sciences and Technology and the University of Karachi. Mr. Sheikh has supported the development of various mosques throughout the Commonwealth while also promoting interfaith cooperation between multicultural communities. His activism and leadership has touched countless lives and has promoted a strong sense of community spirit among Pakistani Americans in the region. I ask that we give him a warm Senate welcome.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so very much. I understand that you came in 1969. And I am sure that you've seen so many changes socially and economically in our great United States. And indeed, you've been a champion of it. And yes, as the senator has said, you've helped the Pakistani community. But in doing so, you've really helped America as well. We're so grateful for you and all that you've done. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Ayer, the senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator may say on.
Madam President, today our prayer was offered by the Reverend Harry Bowman, and I'd ask that he please stand. Reverend Bowman has spent a lifetime committed to the Lord and a lifetime trying to save the souls of so many. We owe him a huge debt of gratitude for seeing fit to pray over our business this morning and afternoon, and also for the timely reminder about generosity both to each other and those in the world. And so I'd ask that you please join me in giving a warm Senate welcome to Reverend Harry Bowman.
Reverend Bowman, thank you so very much for coming and for your prayer. Indeed, it says that you are retired, but can a Baptist minister ever really retire? I don't think so, because you know well what it is to serve, and it's in your heart, and it's in your DNA to serve, and so we're glad that here you are, though you are retired, you've prayed for us, and we are very needful of it. Thank you again for all that you do in your community. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeStaff.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, joining us today in the gallery are the Gold Star families and spouses. They're here on part of a group called Friends of VMSDEP. There's roughly 13 of them, and a lot of them are joined by individuals with 90 to 100% service-disabled veterans and their dependents, and they're here to help educate us on the VMSDEP program and what's in our budget language today, as well as the impact and the intricacies on this complicated subject, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, and the balance between federal and state and what's going on in this program. Thank you very much, and with that, I'd like to give them the warmest welcome in the Senate.
Gold Star family, we welcome you. So many times in my talks, I recognize the sacrifice that the veteran makes or the active duty personnel make, but I also always recognize the sacrifices that our families make that are left behind, because indeed, the Gold Star family is described here as one that has experienced a loss of a loved one, an immediate family member who died as the result of active duty military service. We're so grateful that you've given your loved one to us, to serve us, and they've given the ultimate sacrifice. We're grateful for you, and we hope that you know this, and we wish you the best, and we thank you that as you continue, you know that we will continue to support you and your family members. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my pleasure to welcome Christina Mekdi-Zayed. She's standing there in the gallery. Christina is visiting the General Assembly today. She's a recent graduate of Reynolds Community College, and she's here today to learn more about state government and its operations, and she's participating in my office's shadowing program this afternoon. Christina was accepted into a large number of Virginia's public institutions for transfer, and she's currently deciding where she wants to attend, but she knows that she's going to focus on politics, international relations, or immigration support as well. So please, I ask that we extend a warm welcome of the Senate to Christina.
Well, good afternoon, Christina, and thank you for coming. And I think you've picked one of the best days because we're going to be talking about the money, the two Bibles here. But we're glad that you have done well in your studies and that you're moving on. We need you as our future leader. Thank you for coming again. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Saravel, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go through a couple procedural things so we all had a clear idea of the run of show today. First of all, the clerk has asked me to announce that we're going to take up single house memorial and commending resolutions on a supplemental calendar later in the day. But if you have a memorial or commending resolution you would like taken up today, you need to have it to the clerk by 1:30 p.m. today. So first of all, if you have any, get them in. I think there's about 5 I saw pre-filed before today, but if there's any more, we need them. Secondly, we're going to take up the joint procedure resolution with the House here in a moment since we've completed the morning hour. After that, I believe we're going to recess for 2 reasons. One, we need to have a meeting at my desk for a courts committee to certify the 8 judges that we reviewed this morning. Then we're going to go into Senate Finance Committee meeting, have a Senate Finance briefing. Then we're going to come back. Hopefully by then the House will have sent over or have passed the budget on their side. Once the House has passed the budget, while they're communicating it, we're going to try and have the judicial election to try and knock out 2 birds with 1 stone to move things along. Then we'll have to have the budget back here in Senate Finance again on the floor, and then we should be able to get out of here. So let us stop and start today, but I think we've got it queued up to be out of here by hopefully maybe 3 o'clock. So we'll see. Don't hold me to it. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair again recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and House Joint Resolution 6001 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and House Joint Resolution 6001 be taken up for immediate consideration. As many as are in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair again recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the resolution be agreed to, and speaking to the resolution.
The senator may say on.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the procedural resolution for the special session, and it speaks to the budget bill, revenue bills, single house commending and memorial resolutions, the election of judges, and any other officials subject to the election of the General Assembly. And I would also point members to rule number 1 on beginning on line 29, that specifically states that neither house shall receive, consider, or vote on any committee amendment or floor amendment or amendment to the other house to the budget bill. Again, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Those in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The resolution is agreed to. The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke, will inform the House of Delegates of the action of the Senate. The Senate will stand at ease until the senator returns. Order. Resolutions, petitions, and bills are now in order. Madam Clerk?
Announcements for today. The Committee for Courts of Justice will meet immediately upon recess at the chair's desk. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet immediately upon adjournment of Courts of Justice in the Senate chamber.
Senator Soroville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. So we can take up the courts meeting and the finance meeting. I would ask that we stand in recess until 1:45.
Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover. The Senate stands at recess until the time the senator has stated.
Senate Finance Committee will come to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Senator Deeds, Senator Locke, Senator Marsden, Senator Eben, Senator McDougal, Senator Obenshain, Senator Stewart, Senator Reeves, Senator Favola, Senator Surivel, Senator McPike, Senator Boysko, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Lucas.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Good afternoon. It may seem like deja vu that we are here again, but here we are. The budget bill that I'm going to ask staff to brief you on contains the same spending priorities as when we passed the conference report in March. Between the beginning of March and now, to get to this point, there have been some interesting twists and turns, but we have still ended up with funding that prioritizes the citizens of the Commonwealth. The budget places the focus on educating our children, the future of this great state, and as I previously stated, you cannot have the needed workforce or economic growth without investments in education. And I will state this again. This budget contains all of our spending priorities. This means it maintains large investments in K-12 and higher education, HHR, and natural resources. The conferees were able to do this mainly by recognizing additional revenues in this year's adjusting spending from technical amendments to previous actions on legislation and converting general fund cash in capital outlay to debt. Additionally, a part of the grand compromise to ensure that the governor will sign this budget, the modernization of sales tax through the expansion of the new economy category is gone. And language to require the governor to rejoin Reggie is gone. I know these actions are not popular with my colleagues in some of our caucus, and many feel that we are essentially kicking the can down the road. But progress can take time and sometimes compromise. In taking these actions, this budget will still provide for a stronger Virginia, but with some compromises that we will have to live with today. And although not all of the compromises are going to be popular, they are and were necessary to get a budget before you today. Localities, agencies, and institutions deserve this budget to move forward with their planning. It also protects our AAA bond rating and demonstrates that Virginia can get things done. We will continue to push forward and get things done during the interim period to ensure that we make progress. Chairman Torian and I will direct the examination into modernizing our tax system through the work of the Joint Subcommittee on Tax Policy, which will meet this summer. We cannot let our sales tax base regress because consumers have shifted from goods to digital goods and services. Ensuring a fair sales tax base is no different than when we began to collect sales tax on goods, purchases online, and with Wayfair decisions. We have big funding needs in K-12 education that require stable revenue. Now I want to take a moment to ask the conferees and the committee staff for their hard work. Let me say that again. I want to take this moment to thank the conferees and staff for their hard work and dedication. Can I get an applaud there, please? I appreciate their efforts over the last 2 months, so thank you. I want to conclude by reiterating that this budget is a big win for Virginia. Big win for Virginia. It has over $2 billion for K-12 and has 3% per year raises for teachers and state-supported local employees. It also expands behavioral health services and crisis supports for some of the most vulnerable citizens. And this budget provides needed investments in public safety and additional amounts for protecting our environment. There's a lot to love about this budget, and I look forward to passing this budget bill today. I heard somebody say, There is a lot to love about this budget, and I look forward to passing both budget bills today. This is a win for the Commonwealth. Before we take actions on the bills, I'm ask that April and the committee staff to provide us with a quick briefing. Moving back to the agenda, we now have before us Senate Bill 6002, the caboose bill. Do I have a motion on the bill? You have a motion and a second? I do want you to do the briefing first, even though I like just going to pass it through. But April, can you go and do the briefing first? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll try to make it quick because I know everybody wants to move straight to passing the budgets. If you turn to slide 2 of the PowerPoint packet that staff has provided for you, just a reminder about the fact that about some of the key themes about the enrolled budgets, both the caboose bill and the biennial budget. And I do also want to note, you have spreadsheets that we provided to the committee members over the weekend. Those actions are on the enrolled bills, so if it doesn't show a negative or a positive coming out, that means if it was in the previous budgets, then it's still there. So just a reminder about the themes. The conference report of both the biennial budget and the caboose budget aimed to increase structural balance over what came over from the introduced budget. It prioritized funding for K-12 education. It provided those pay increases that Madam Chair mentioned for teachers and state-supported local employees. And HHR, the support was focused on behavioral health, crisis funding, and increases in Medicaid provider rates. And as a reminder, when the introduced budget came over, a lot of the spending there was related to mandatory spending, and that's both in Medicaid with the forecast and then K-12 re-benchmarking. And then you might remember there was about $1 billion of tax cuts that came over in the introduced budget and accounted for revenue from the new economy categories. Those are gone now. We'll mention that again in a minute. But remember, for individuals and for businesses, for software only. And then there was a revenue reserve fund withdrawal because of it being over the mandatory 15%, and that was spread between the 2 years. If you turn to slide 3, just a summary of the actions are there for how we went from the enrolled versions to where we are today, and how you were able to do it by taking out the $1.2 billion associated with the modernization of sales tax for those new economy categories. First, in the current fiscal year, so this will be in the caboose budget, there's additional revenue that's picked up of $525 million. Tyler can talk about this a little bit more, but that is already in the bank, and it's in the sources of withholding and sales tax, so relatively stable sources. That's not like non-withholding, which fluctuates. So that's the first action. So we pick up $525 million in the current fiscal year. You also then would adopt technical amendments, and some of which came over from the governor and the budget amendments that he had, and then also where there was legislation that has either been amended to adjust funding or where it was vetoed, those amendments are picked up, so that results in about $94 million in some savings there, most of which is from minimum wage, not moving forward. And then the third thing is to utilize additional debt to support capital outlay projects. There was a lot of cash and capital. This budget agreement would move about $515 million from cash to debt. There was also a reduction in the Medicaid Reserve Fund and some additional revenue in the health care fund. I'll let Mike discuss that further. And then we captured the Virginia Preschool Initiative non-participation savings rate, which is something that technically we normally do on a yearly basis. So we're doing that early, which results in about $71 million in savings there. There's also additional $25 million in lottery profits that are picked up as well. And again, Wendy or Anya can speak to that. I'm going to turn it over to Tyler for a minute before concluding the revenue section.
As April mentioned, revenues are coming in stronger than expected. You might remember that the House Bill 29 as enrolled expected a contraction of revenue of about 0.6%, but year-to-date we're up 5%, and that puts us about $1.1 billion ahead of the forecast. A lot of this, $536 million, is in withholding, a stable revenue source, and we anticipate year-end revenue collections to even exceed the enrolled House Bill 29, which is the fall forecast by 1.2 to 1.5 billion. So as April mentioned, we can pick up safely $525 million in this fiscal year, which will carry forward for spending in fiscal year 2025. And then there's contingent language in both bills dedicating a portion of any surplus. First, $175 million for I-81, which is from the conference report, and then $400 million to supplant debt actions back to general fund cash for capital for wastewater projects. Slide number 5 shows all the revenue adjustments. The first one is you see a reversion of the college lab school transfer. Wendy will go into this more detail, but this would maintain $75 million for the College Partnership Lab School Fund. You see the reflection of additional revenue in this fiscal year. You then see the reflection of the new economy sales tax categories, which is about $1.2 billion. You see the reflection of the elimination of the cannabis revenue due to the governor's vetoes. You see some smaller adjustments related to bills. And then further down on the sheet, you see the adjustment in fiscal year 2025 only for the ABC net profit transfer. This is a $44 million reduction in fiscal year 25, but there is a projected forecast shortfall also in fiscal year 2026 that's not reflected. And then you see the elimination of the fiscal year 2025 anticipated revenue from skill game revenue, but no action in the second year. So there's still assumed revenue in the second year of the biennial budget. And then the last line is the technical reduction for the K-12 sales tax transfer for those new economy categories. Those are the revenue adjustments. I'll quickly cover on slide 6 the caboose spending actions. The caboose bill in House Bill 6002 and Senate Bill 6002 results in a net spending reduction of $34 million. This is largely from increased revenue in the healthcare fund. There's a small technical and direct aid to update salary increases in the governor's schools amounts, and then adjustments for skill game administration at tax, and then an adjustment to a grant payment under economic development. Slide number 7 shows the spending actions in House Bill 6001 and Senate Bill 6001. This is the biennial budget. These are by secretarial area. You'll notice administration and independent agencies, there's a large swing of about $66 million. This is from moving DGS from independent agency back to administration. You'll see public education, there's a negative $243 million. This is largely from the sales tax being removed. That's the 45 cents that the localities would have gotten from the modernization of the sales tax. So that's a technical to remove out the sales tax revenue. And then you see minor adjustments throughout the other areas, and then you get to capital outlay, and you see the shift of about $467 million in cash in capital outlay. And then April will talk about the ending balance.
All right, on slide 8, I'm just going to note, you'll see that the unappropriated balance remains very similar to the conference report. It's at $17.6 million versus the $17.9. What I will say is different is if you look at the way fiscal year 2026 ends, it's negative $234 million. And that isn't really the way when we recommend to staff building a budget from a structural balance standpoint, the way we recommend doing that. So in Truth in Advertising, I'm pointing that out to you. But here's what I'm going to say about that. Because we're picking up that $525 million in revenue from withholding and sales tax, those sources are very stable, and even during a recession, they don't trend downward typically. It's usually non-withholding that fluctuates. So I'm certain that you would have an additional $525 in each year to ripple through. But what I will say is it might limit your spending when you do an amended budget in the next session. So I am going to point that out, but it's kind of a while maybe concerning, I have good news that sort of balances that out. But I did want to point that out just so people were aware. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Tyler to talk about capital outlay.
So as we've mentioned, capital outlay was a place to go for cash because you used a lot of general fund cash for the funding of capital outlay projects. The bills before you supplant cash for tax-supported debt, you'll see the removal of the $468 million in cash for capital outlay and an increase in tax-supported debt of $515. The difference between those two numbers, the $47.5 million, is there was a transfer of $47.5 million from a prior construction pool. Instead of using that to pay for capital projects, we're using that as a balance adjustment for the rest of the budget. So that cash is being used in other areas. And then there's a small scope change for the Museum of Fine Arts expansion and renovation of the museum to consolidate square footage in the annex programs into museum space.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. On slide 11, there's a few updates on the education side. And the main one you'll see reflected is in the top line with the sales tax that's been removed, because that also impacts funding that went to K-12. There's a technical update that's provided regarding to the Literacy Act funding. This was also part of something that the governor had provided in his amendments. April also mentioned that there was some additional lottery proceeds that we received since the end of session, and we recognize those and include those in a per pupil basis for infrastructure and operating support. There's we were notified that the literacy lab would be no longer operational beginning in FY25, so there's an adjustment to redirect those funds to support Henrico and Richmond City. And then April also mentioned that we moved some money with the literary fund in providing teacher retirement support. The general fund support was moved to the second year versus the first. And last, the VPI savings, that was the non-participation rate that April mentioned earlier. Regarding the lab schools, as was mentioned, there's $75 million that's left in the fund. There's additional language that has been provided that the funds, which is actually in the existing language, is provided to public four-year institutions. It does allow for institutions that have been approved that are not an eligible four-year, that they can then partner with a public four-year institution, and that four-year institution will need to become the fiscal agent for that group. And there's also language moving forward of annual reporting for those approved lab schools to reach fiscal financial sustainability, and that funds for renewed applications after the end of their initial application would require that they could only receive aid through direct aid that's provided to public school divisions. On the higher ed side, there's a technical amendment that clarified that George Washington was eligible to receive financial aid. And that's a program and some language that came in through the conference budget. And the last one is related to waiver programs with the Military Survivor Program. From the conference budget to what has changed here is that there is a hold harmless that has been put in place. Originally in the conference budget, it was only for 1 year. This now allows the hold harmless to extend for the life of the program for the way the individual is enrolled, as well as any individuals who have committed to the institution by May 15th and enrolled by the fall of 2024. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Turning to slide 12, Health and Human Resources. As previously mentioned, the Medicaid reserve, which was put in place just for as the unwinding of Medicaid is occurring after the end of the pandemic, just in case it looked like enrollment was trending higher than expected. That was reduced from $150 million to $95 million. Personal care rates were increased by 2% in each year for a cost of $56 million. If you recall, in the adopted budget for the regular session, there was an increase of 1.2% the first year and 11.1% the second year. That was directly tied to the minimum wage bill, which was vetoed by the governor. So this is in lieu of that, providing 2% in each year for personal care rates in Medicaid. The health care fund adjustment, April already mentioned the $40 million in savings in 24. This is really just one-time money that came from as they were reconciling basically what the general fund had to pay for over the past couple of years related to all the pandemic funding, that some of it actually did not have to be paid from the general fund, so they recouped those funds. And that was a one-time revenue for the for 24. One piece of legislation in Health and Human Resources related to the Prescription Drug Affordability Board. You can see that money, the $1 million, was picked back up. There's also about $800,000 removed in funding for the Health Wagon. You may have seen the stories of late about much higher compensation for their executives than you would expect of a nonprofit. So that direct pass-through grant was removed from the budget. And there was most of the rest is technical, 2 positions in non-general funds for 2 bills related to the Department of Health Professions. The only kind of language thing to note was the Northern Virginia Firefighters Occupational Screening Pilot. The language is removed to remove the local match requirement, and that's basically because the Inova Health System is providing the match for that pilot program. And then the other 2 things were just technical in nature, the other language changes. So if there are no questions, I'll turn it over to Katie for public safety. Go.
Senator Vavola, I'm sorry, I couldn't find my mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mike. I have a question. I'm glad that we're conforming our budget language on the legally responsible individuals providing care to the legislation we passed, but we still have to apply for a federal waiver to allow that definition to take hold. Isn't that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Favola, yes, any of those changes have to be approved by the feds, and as soon as this budget is adopted, DMAS would make that request.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Moving to slide 13, public safety and veterans, there are only a few changes. The majority are related to legislation that was vetoed by the governor, and so the funding that the General Assembly had provided was removed. The only other changes compared to what passed in March are $3 million the first year for the Virginia Military Community Infrastructure Grant Program, which provides matching funds to localities for federal projects, and then a technical clarification related to a report for the Virginia State Police body-worn cost estimates. If there are no questions on public safety, I'll hand it over to Kendra.
Madam Chair, in the areas of economic development and natural resources, the primary changes are related to the governor's action on legislation. There was an action to restore some funding for the Motion Picture Opportunity Fund, which had already been committed. And there is included in the caboose bill some language related to Menhaden bait quota transfer between producers and regulatory action. In the area of transportation, there are primarily technical adjustments related to unnecessary funding for some DMV action. And then there's a modification to the support that was provided for WMATA, and that is based on additional information from them and where they are with their funding needs. And it also does not directly address the issue of using a consultant, leaves it as an option that WMATA, and includes the funding. They can take that action if they would so choose. And finally, there is some language, there's a technical adjustment for the employment level at VDOT, and some language that would designate existing funding from the State Trails Fund for the Fall Line Trail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions by members of the committee? Thank you.
So moving to slide 15 in the area of general government, you'll see the first 7 items listed there were actually basically savings for the most part that comes from failed legislation, the largest one being the minimum wage increase, which was the savings of $79.5 million. And that was related, again, to the personal care rates, primarily. You can see one new item was adding a position for the work of the Behavioral Health Commission, about $200,000. There was also the movement of a juvenile restoration study, which had been in the adopted budget for the Crime Commission to do. This is actually moved to the Judicial Department with a little bit of funding to help them do that. There are additional positions, you can see, added for the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. And then there's also non-drill funds, which comes from the opioid settlement funds, to go ahead and proceed with developing an opioid data tracking system. Moving to slide 16, just some language items, which some have already been referenced, but directing the Joint Tax Policy Subcommittee to look at the modernization of sales tax and income tax progressivity. There's also a work group for the 2 money committees to review historic horse racing revenue distribution, and a work group for implementation of a new integrated revenue management system for the Department of Taxation. Other things to note were already referenced, the contingent appropriations. The ARPA balances and sort of the timeline for that has sort of been delayed, is consistent with what the governor had requested at the reconvened session. There's updates to the transfers for the Revenue Reserve Fund, and then some other technical things. So with that, I'll let April conclude.
Any questions by members of the committee?
All right, Madam Chair, I'll wrap this up. In summary, just as a reminder, this retains all the new spending items from the conference report and roll bill, except for the technical adjustments or the legislative adjustments that were mentioned. It does not include any increase or from sales tax from the modernization of that source for the digital goods and services. It recognizes that $525 million in additional revenue from withholding and sales tax in the caboose bill in fiscal year 2024. As for some other revenue adjustments for ABC, the downward, due to that overly aggressive forecast that came in, there is a revision of $44 million in the first year of the new biennial budget. The second year is left for the governor to adjust with more information when he does the introduced budget in December. And I will mention, since Tyler didn't give us as much detail on the skill games revenue, I want to just explain that action in a little more detail. Since the governor can choose to either veto or sign that piece of legislation, he has until the 17th. You see that there's an adjustment of having zero revenue from that bill in the first year because it's an unknown. And so for the second year, we leave the $112 million in revenue from that source, so that if the governor chooses to sign the bill, or if there's another bill, say at some point during a special session, or even in the introduced bill, that revenue could be recognized, and he could do that in the next session too, since it's only in the second year. So I did just want to make a note of that and explain the thinking behind that. Tyler mentioned the swap of about $515 million from general fund cash to debt. There is the contingent language with the $400 million from the wastewater projects, where if there's a surplus, those will be transferred from debt back to cash. So that would go forward from language. Mike mentioned the Medicaid reserve fund going from $150 million to $95 million. We did pick up additional $40 million from healthcare fund revenue, but there should be some additional funding there that will also give the governor some legal room as well on that if Medicaid unwinding and other things see enrollment in that program being higher than anticipated and some additional increasing inflationary costs. We mentioned the technical non-participation savings in the preschool initiative and the additional $25 million in lottery pickup. It does remove, this new budget agreement removes language requiring the governor to re-enter Reggie, as there is a current court case on that. It provides no new funding in the biennial budget for lab schools. It does retain, of the $100 million in the budget that's closing out in fiscal year 2024, it does retain the $75 million and has some language adjusting who can partner, meaning the people who were approved who didn't have access to the fund could partner and resubmit with a 4-year. And then there's $56 million for the 2% annual increases for the personal care provider, and all those actions leave an unappropriated balance of $17.6 million. And Madam Chair, if there are no other questions, I think you're ready for action on the bills.
Any questions by any member of the committee? Thank you, April, and staff. And as you saw earlier, I was just a little bit ahead of my skis. So now moving back to the agenda, we now have before us Senate Bill 6002, the caboose bill. Do I now have a motion on the bill? There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please vote electronically. No, we can't. Okay, I'm sorry. Call the roll, please.
Senator Deeds, Senator Locke, Senator Marsden, Senator Eben, Senator McDougal, Senator Obenshain, Senator Stewart, Senator Reeves, Senator Favola, Senator Surivel, Senator McPike, Senator Boysko, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Lucas.
Aye.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Thank you. Next up, we have Senate Bill 6001, the biennial budget before us. I hear a motion and a second that the bill be approved. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Senator Deeds, Senator Locke, Senator Marsden, Senator Eben, Senator McDougal, Senator Obenshain,
Senator Stewart, Senator Reeves, Senator Favola, Senator Surivel, Senator McPike, Senator Boysko, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Lucas.
Aye.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, now, if there's no other business to come before the committee will rise. Yes.
The senators will take their seats. Chair calls on Senator Lucas. The Senate will come to order.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move to suspend the rules and grant the privileges of the floor to members of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee staff.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the privileges of the floor granted to members of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee and staff? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended. The privileges of the floor are granted.
Senate calendar for Monday, May 13th, 2024. Uncontested calendar, Senate bill on first reading. Senate Bill 6000, a bill for all appropriations of the budget submitted by the Governor of Virginia in accordance with the provisions of 2.2-150, etc. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of the bill is dispensed with. Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill is dispensed with. Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator may say on.
As I mentioned earlier, this budget agreement is a win for the citizens of the Commonwealth. We were able to deliver on our priorities and with an eye on the future. We will continue our work this summer to examine our tax system, our K-12 education funding, and our higher education funding. With that said, Madam President, again, I move that the bill pass.
Chair calls on those senators who are abstaining from portions of the bill. Senator McPike, the senior senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I'm abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on item 486F, but voting on Senate Bill 6001 as a whole.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I am abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on items 92, 288, 282, and 489.1, but voting on the Senate Bill 6001 as a whole.
Senator Ayer, the senator from Petersburg.
President, I am abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on item 217, 218, 471, C20, C21, C46, C48, C50, but voting on Senate Bill 6001 as a whole.
Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Madam President, I'm voting on Senate Bill 6001 as a whole, but abstaining on items 194 and 394.
Is there any other senator? Senator Carol Foy, the senator from Eastern Prince William County.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I am abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on item 469, but voting on Senate Bill 6001 as a whole.
Those in favor of passage of Senate Bill 6001 will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. Senate Bill 6001 passes.
Senate Bill 6002, Budget Bill, amends Chapter 2 of the Acts of Assembly of 2022, Special Session 1, as amended by Chapter 769 of the Acts of Assembly of 2023, etc.
Chair calls on Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of Senate Bill 6002 be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the second constitutional reading of the title of the bill is dispensed with. Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of Senate Bill 6002 be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title is dispensed with. Again, Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you again, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill be passed and speak into the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, as I mentioned before, this is a bill for the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We will continue our work this summer to examine our tax system, our K-12 education funding, and our higher education funding. With that said, again, Madam President, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Are there any senators who wish to abstain? Senator Stewart, the senator from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be voting on SB 6002 as a whole, but abstaining on item number 374.
Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Madam President, I'm voting on SB 602 as a whole and abstaining on item 206.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I am abstaining pursuant to Rule 36 on items 104, 304, and 39.9, but voting on Senate Bill 6002 as a whole.
Are there any other senators? Now then, the question is, shall Senate Bill 6002 pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. Senate Bill 6002 passes. Chair now recognizes Senator Saravell, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move the waive reading of the communication from the House of Delegates.
Communication from the House.
The question is, sorry, Senator, I was not aware we had a communication. The question is, shall the communication, the reading thereof, communication from the House of Delegates be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. I'm sorry, it's a recorded vote. Will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. Senator Saravell.
Thank you, Madam President. You got to keep an eye out for that secret sign from the clerk there. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended. The House Joint Resolutions number 6002 be taken up for immediate consideration.
We're still copying it, too. We're still copying. It's not out yet. We just need a pause.
Senator, the clerk's staff does not yet have that information, and so we're going to be at ease until it is received from the House. Senate is at ease. There is already a motion on the floor. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and House Joint Resolution number 600-2 be taken up for immediate consideration? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. House Joint Resolution number 6002 will be taken up for immediate consideration. Chair again recognizes Senator Surreville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. House Joint Resolution 602 is agreed to. The chair directs the senator.
He's on his way.
Well, for the record, from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surreville to inform the House of Delegates of the action of the Senate, and the Senate will be at ease until the senator from Eastern Fairfax County returns. Moved. Senator Surreville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee of Courts of Justice be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, readings of the title be waived, and the Senate Resolution 605 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee for Courts of Justice be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 605 be taken up for immediate consideration. That is the question. All those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes again Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Resolution 605 be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective general district courts. Chair recognizes again Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee of Courts of Justice be discharged from consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution 606 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended? The Committee for Courts of Justice be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 606 be taken up for immediate consideration. All as many as are in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair again recognizes Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move Senate Resolution 606 be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Those are in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Now then, nominations are now in order for a judge of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district court. Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee of Courts of Justice be discharged from consideration of the resolution, the reading of the title be waived, and that Senate Resolution 607 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee for Courts of Justice be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 607 be taken up for immediate consideration? As many as are in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Senator Surville.
Madam President, I move that Senate Resolution 607 be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Chair again directs the hasty senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville, to inform the House of Delegates of the nominations that have been made by the Senate. Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
The delegate from Manassas, Delegate Maldonado.
Please receive her.
Madam President, I hastily come before you. I have been directed by the Speaker of the House of Delegates to inform the Senate that the House has made certain nominations pursuant to HJR 6002 and requests the concurrence of the Senate.
The delegate from Prince William, Delegate Maldonado, is thanked. And the Senate will again be at ease until Senator Surville safely returns from the other chamber. Senator Soroville having returned. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 605 to be judges of the respective circuit courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. Now then, all in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution 606 to be judges of the respective general district courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. All in favor of the nominee of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 607 to be a judge of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The votes having been taken, the chair appoints Senators Perry, Salim, and Jordan, the committee on the part of the Senate, to count and report the vote of each House in each case. The Senate will then stand at ease. The joint order under House Joint Resolution number 6002 will be resumed. The clerk will read the report of the committee to count the vote.
The committee has reported as follows. Number of votes necessary to elect. Senator Surivel. In the House of Delegates, 51. In the Senate, 21.
Chair recognizes again the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surivel.
Page 17.
Madam President, I'd like to listen to my colleague over here from Charlottesville, but unfortunately I'm going to move that we waive the reading of the report.
The question is, shall the reading of the report be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2. He didn't want his desk in the middle of Broad Street.
The reading of the report is indeed waived. Those named in the report as having received the vote of a majority of the members elected to each house of the General Assembly are duly elected as judges of the respective circuit courts, general district courts, and juvenile and domestic relations district court for the terms that have been set forth. Senator Surivel. We're recessed.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we stand in recess for 15 minutes so we can get ready to take our next vote.
Without objection, the Senate stands at recess.
The Senate Republicans are going to immediately caucus downstairs.
Are we getting rid of the Senate Finance Committee?
Hey, Senator McDougal.
Finance Committee. Finance Committee.
Thank you. At the chair's desk.
The Finance Committee will meet immediately upon recess at the chair's desk.
The Senate now stands at recess. Madam Clerk.
Supplemental Calendar Number 1, 2024 Special Session, Monday, May 13, 2024. Uncontested Calendar, House Bills on second reading. House Bill 6001, Budget Bill, etc.
Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate be suspended and the constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
I'm going to ask the senator to restate that motion. You don't want to suspend the Senate.
Yes, ma'am. Hold a second, please. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of House Bill 6001 be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended, and the third constitutional reading is dispensed with. Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
I will repeat that this budget agreement is a win for the citizens of the Commonwealth, and the bill before us are identical to the Senate bills that passed earlier. With that, I move that the bill pass.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator may say on.
Madam President, I want to thank the body. In particular, I want to thank Senator Lucas and Chairman Torian. This was one of the examples of where I think there can be success. An example where people had different ideas and different views, and we sat down and we talked through it. Some of those conversations were tense. Some of them might have been a little more than tense. But at the end of the day, we came up with a product that continues to move Virginia forward, focuses on our kids' education, focuses on our public safety professionals, and also focuses on those individuals who cannot support themselves. I particularly just want to thank the members of this body for working so diligently, even when it was difficult, to come up with this solution for Virginia.
The senator from Orange, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, unfortunately, I have to rise to speak about one section of the bill, Madam President, that kind of surprised many of us. On page 641, line 29 of the budget we have before us, there's some extremely unassuming language on this page that has the entire veteran population along with their families in an uproar. You know, I've worked diligently with many of you tackling veterans issues, and I'd like to think it's well known among my colleagues that I co-chair the General Assembly Military Veterans Caucus, GAMVIC, and many of you in this chamber participate in that. And we work in GAMVIC to show that politics are unwelcome in that caucus, and all we're ultimately trying to do is fix the solutions to the problems we face and support those who have worn the cloth of our country and their families. I hope that what I'm about to say can be viewed without a political lens and merely as commentary on what good policy should look like. And we make a promise to the people of Virginia, not as one political party or another, but as the General Assembly, as a collective of duly elected members working to serve our constituency. We have to stand by that promise. The language on page 641, section 7, subsection C, is the Commonwealth backing out of a promise we made to our veterans. The Virginia Military Survivors and Dependents Education Program, or VMESDEP, is a valuable state program. It means the world to many Virginians. In fact, for many military families, it was the sole determining factor in where they would retire. The program provides limited higher education waivers to military survivors and dependents. The program is exclusively available to dependent spouses or surviving spouses of members of the uniformed services who is deemed to have a 90% disability rating or higher, or who was killed in the line of duty. Let me say that again to be perfectly clear. This program is only available to the spouse or children of individuals who've had been severely physically disabled or outright killed as a result of their service to our nation. The language on page 641 would hurt the program. The original Senate bill had language to study this, to get more information, and I understand and I appreciate how hard our conferees work to fight to get the current language, and I really do appreciate that. I had Senate Bill 347, which was to study that bill, and it passed this body unanimously. Unfortunately, the bill was killed in the House Appropriations. In the rush of the budget process, I didn't notice that the last dollar language, which you see before you, had been included in the budget bill that we passed. After an outcry from our veteran community, the governor elected to amend that budget and convene a study not unlike what was proposed in SB 347. We again started the budget process. We find ourselves looking back at square one. This bill in its current form, or this language in its current form, would almost make VMESDEP useless. When we enact good policy as a body, and when Virginians take notice and participate in the programs we create, who are we to rip that away from our veterans who have worn the cloth of our country? I have dozens and dozens of families telling me their children's futures were planned around this program, and a May 15th deadline makes that very difficult. I have a petition on my desk showing thousands of emails and letters from constituents who oppose this untimely change. And those Gold Star families whose mothers, fathers, sons, or daughters have made the ultimate sacrifice, asking me to help them. George Washington once said, "The willingness with each of our young people are likely to serve in any wars, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation." This program is not a handout. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's something that has been sacrificed for in blood and in bodily capabilities. Turning our cheek to this is not the answer. We must study this issue to find a viable long-term solution rather than to help our veterans community when they reach their hands out in good faith. Madam President, I would like to tell the conferee committee, I know you worked very hard to get to this point. But I think there's some things going forward that we can do to really take a look at this program and correct it. Madam President, I ask that we pass the bill.
The senator from Chesapeake, Senator Craig.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to thank all the conferees. I'm a new elected senator here, so I really appreciate all the hard work that you gave, the dedication, the time over the last couple weeks to get us to where we have a bill to keep the Commonwealth open. So for that, I'm very grateful, and I'm very honored to be a part of this body. I echo the sentiments of the senator from Orange. I am very in support of this bill, but I am going to do a yellow sheet to show that I do not support the cuts to VMSDEP. And for those reasons, I vote on this bill, but thank you very much.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteph.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
Senator may continue.
Madam President, I echo the statements from the senator from Chesapeake and senator from Orange, and will say that on first blush, when I read this, I thought I understood it as something that was not as harmful as it is, understanding the impact of the federal program and the DEA grants, or the way that interacts with our state program. We have individuals from Gold Star families with us today that helped explain that, so I have a better understanding of the impact and the conflict between the two programs. Madam President, I'm hoping that we could get the governor to bring this into a study to look at this. He still has the opportunity to do so. But I've also worked with my peers on the other side of the aisle who are very veteran-friendly as well. being friendly to our veterans is not just something for one side of the aisle or the other. It's not just something for one chamber or the other. It's bi-party and bicameral. So working with my friends on the other side of the aisle, we're going to attempt to call JCAR into effect to take a look at this and see if we can resolve these conflicts and work this out. Because, Madam President, there's nobody here that wants to cause any harm to those who sacrifice their lives and what we recognize as a benefit or a helping hand for their families and their children. And Madam President, I know that in our hearts of heart that we don't want to cause any harm to this program, and I believe that one of those two ways are the way to resolve this. So I've yellow sheeted this. I've asked for my friends on both sides of the aisle to do the same, and between JCAR and our friends on the other side working to make that happen, and the governor, hopefully he can call a study on this. But I commend those individuals on the conference committee who've truly worked tirelessly for weeks trying to get a compromise bill. And truly, we didn't see the conflicts between the federal program, I believe it's Title 30, and the DEI program, and the impact on what we have with this program. And it wasn't brought to my attention till today. And I know that when we worked with staff on this, even they were unaware of certain impacts of the interface between the two programs or interactions. So with that, Madam President, I hope we can work this out, get it studied, and have a resolution and get this one taken care of. And I thank the body, and again, I thank the conferees who truly worked hard and did what they could to make it all work and get us a compromise budget that truly is right and good for the Commonwealth. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Durant, the senator from Stafford.
Madam President, I rise to speak on the same issue.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would be remiss if I didn't also echo the sentiments I've heard from my colleagues on this program. As a wife of a newly retired Marine who served for 30 years and representing a district that, honestly, Madam President, you can't really go from one house to the next without encountering a veteran family. This is something, an issue that I've heard from, like my colleague from Orange, just numerous families who really feel blindsided, as I think many of my colleagues do, on what has happened. This is not how this process is supposed to work. Madam President, we expect to have this kind of legislation go through in the proper format through committee where all of the stakeholders, those who are invested and who are impacted by it, have an opportunity to come before committee, to be able to speak on this issue and come and hopefully get resolve it in a way that is that works for the many veterans that we represent. Instead, this process has come through in a very unique format, legislating this through the budget, and even through today, many of us are just really surprised to see how this is going to impact those families. So I urge that we are able to come through and make the right decision for these families. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Senator Suderline, the senator from Roanoke.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I appreciate the governor and our chair of finance and our budget negotiators for putting together a budget that truly looks like what you'd expect from divided government, that I think is a pretty classic compromise. I especially appreciate what's been done with the Title I or Priority 1 waivers throughout the entire process. I like that Governor Youngkin put it in on day one. I like that it stayed in our Senate budget, and I like that at no point did we ever have to worry about that coming out. That is so critical for so many people that we represent. And I appreciate what we've done for public education. I think this is one of the best public education budgets we've had. Governor Youngkin, I remember campaigning on that, saying we'd have the biggest one ever when he was governor, and I'm glad we have that. I also really appreciate on the legislating through the budget. I really don't like it when there's a lot of legislating through the budget, I got to say, this is one of the best budgets that we've had when it comes to us not taking up positions that were failed during the legislature. You don't look through this in Section 4 and see a whole bunch of items that someone added in the last minute of the process. And I appreciate that. My greatest regret, though, with the budget is I think we should have tax relief in here. The reason why is because we have record revenue coming through, and I think that we should be able to provide more tax relief to the people of Virginia. I hope that's something we're able to do in the years ahead. But I very much appreciate the work of our Senate team negotiating the budget throughout the whole thing, and I plan to vote for it again. I just want to say thank you, Madam President.
Senator McPike, the senior senator from Prince William. Before I recognize the senator, I'm sorry, just to let the senators know that those of you who had previously noted your abstentions from certain items in the previous budget iteration, it will be noted again this time, so you don't have to unless you have new items that you'd like to refrain from. So, having said that, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. I did want to address some of the colleagues' comments on the Virginia Military Dependent Education Program, because I think it's important in the context that it is an important investment that we are making, roughly $190 million, and I think the costs have been skyrocketing, which is why you've seen some needed reforms that are put in place, and I think the colleagues have probably pointed out some important areas that may need some tweaks. The governor will have an opportunity to take a look at that as well. But the bottom line, as the patron of that original bill, along with Chairman Torian several years ago, to make it 90 to 100% disabled, we on this aisle are very committed to getting it right. And we have made a huge strides and improvement in Virginia. And I'd just like to add, I don't know that it was my intent as an original patron to make sure it's also inclusive of paying for med school and other that the program is currently paying for. And so our idea was to make sure that undergrad opportunities are made for all Virginians and those veterans' families who have served. However, that program has grown in paying for med schools and paying for doctoral programs, many other things beyond the original scope of intent. And so I do think there are probably some curbing and reforms that are needed to make sure those resources are available to every Virginia veteran family as our budget constraints tighten. Thank you, Madam President.
Those senators wishing to state their abstentions, if they had not done so already, may do so now. Otherwise, we will continue. There is a motion on the floor. The question is, shall House Bill 6001 pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. House Bill 6001 passes. Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title of the bill be dispensed with. That's on House Bill 6002.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
House Bill 6002, budget bill, etc.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of House Bill 6002 be dispensed with? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The rules are suspended, and the third constitutional reading of the bill is dispensed with. Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speak into the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the bill is identical to the Senate bill and is a win for the Commonwealth of Virginia. I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall House Bill 6002 pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? If all the senators voted, does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. House Bill 6002 passes.
Memorial resolutions.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Madam President, I move the memorial resolutions on pages 2 through 2. Senate Resolution 609 through 613 be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding any senator desiring a resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
The Senate will be temporarily at recess. Shall the memorial resolutions on page 2, Senate Resolution 609 through Senate Resolution 613, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
Senate Resolution 609, celebrating the life of Daniel Porter Jordan, Jr. Senate Resolution 610, celebrating the life of Lorraine Payne Williams. Senate Resolution 611, celebrating the life of Golden Bethune-Hill. Senate Resolution 613, celebrating the life of Bradford Windley Phillips.
The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions, please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions.
Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move the commending resolutions on pages 2 through 3. Senate Resolution 602 to 614 be considered in a block by the voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block shall do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
Question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 2 and 3, Senate Resolution 602 through Senate Resolution 614, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will now read the numbers of the resolutions which are before us in the block.
Senate Resolutions 602, 603, 604, 608, 612, 614.
Question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolutions are agreed to. Is there any other business?
Senate, I'll keep this relatively brief. 2 weeks ago, the Senior Senator for Prince William and I, we were at the Prince William County Schools award ceremony where they were honoring our teachers, principals, support staff. It was super cool. His district had a couple more wins than mine, and the senator from Eastern Prince William also had a couple too. So we want to really congratulate everyone back home for that. There's one person in particular I really want to highlight just for all of you for what an incredible story this person has. And that's the principal of Tyler Elementary School. It's in Gainesville, right on the line for where Haymarket is. Her name is Jennifer Perella. And Jennifer, she was named the primary school's principal of the year for this past year, which is great. She's incredible, wonderful administrator, everything that she does. And last year, she donated 60% of her liver to a complete stranger who happened to be a mom in Prince William County who was on the verge of dying. She had 40 different people try to donate and no one matched. And so she stepped up for a total stranger, donated 60% of her liver, and saved that person's life. Well, 2 weeks ago, as Senator McPike and I, we were sitting there and we were just, watching what happens. We see the video come on screen and she's giving her presentation, accepting this reward. Everyone else had been there in person and we were like, oh, well, that's cool, but it's kind of disappointing when the person's not really there. She wasn't there because she was donating her kidney to another stranger who just needed help in Prince William County. Jennifer Perella is an actual hero. And I know that's a sort of word that gets thrown around very lightly, very often sometimes, but she has stepped up to save the lives of two complete strangers in our community because it was the right thing to do because someone needed help. And she wanted to encourage everyone to just take a look. If you can be a donor for anything, whether you're a regular blood donor, whether you can donate your organs, whether you can just step up to help another person, please see what you can do and follow her example. We are so proud of her in Prince William County, and just on behalf of all 40 of us in the Senate, we just wanted to say thank her. We just want to thank her for the incredible contributions that she's done to save lives for her fellow Virginians. Thank you, Madam President.
We thank the senator, and if the senator will permit me, I will ask that we give her a great round of applause.
Yeah.
The senator from, is there any other business? Madam Clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
We have no announcements.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.